The Nintendo GameCube. I always have to laugh a little to myself when talking about this console because this is a system people talked a lot of trash about back when it was released. But nowadays, the perception is pretty positive. So who's laughing now? That's right, the GameCube is the one laughing now. Or maybe more unfortunately, it's the people selling GameCube stuff. You see, the prices on a lot of GameCube games have gone up over the years, and who knows when it'll drop in any significant way, if ever. That being said, when it comes to collecting for GameCube, there is a man who has climbed to the top of the hill, having collected every North American GameCube game, and that would be the YouTuber Console Collector. He's been gracious enough to let me share some footage of his collection, as well as provide a few tips for collecting GameCube games. The first tip he gives is to be patient since prices are so high for a lot of the games. I know this can apply to a lot of consoles, but it really can't be overstated how smart it is to not rush into buying games the first chance you get. Cause here's the thing about expensive games. The higher the price of a game is, the higher the potential is of saving a large chunk of money off the asking price. Let me give you an example to explain what I mean. Let's take arguably the most popular game for the console, Super Smash Bros. Melee. Let's say you see the game selling for $50. Now, maybe you think that price sucks, maybe you think that price is fair, but either way, it's a common enough game that it stands to reason you could run across it for $1 at a garage sale, or come to find a friend of yours who no longer plays games found it stashed away somewhere. Quick little story for you. My friend just recently found a working GameCube with a ton of games, including stuff like Mario Kart, just sitting on somebody's curb with a free sign, and yes, he scooped it up right away. Okay, console collectors' next piece of advice is when collecting GameCube games, don't just judge a game based on its cover. Do your research because the GameCube has some games that are good despite cover art that would suggest otherwise. His next piece of advice is to avoid a lot of the aftermarket controllers. There's some really bad ones for the GameCube that will fall apart, and why even bother when you can have the iconic first-party controllers? And I would say that it's appropriate to call these controllers iconic at this point. I mean, heck, Nintendo has continued to produce these controllers with adapters for their later consoles, just because of how popular they are for Super Smash Bros. And speaking of controllers for the GameCube, there were a lot of different ones to choose from, as you can see here. Sure, some of them are imports or special editions, but if you're a collector, then that's not out of the question, right? Whatever color you pick, you're going to get a solid controller. Also, if you're looking to play GameCube games wirelessly, then you're in luck because Nintendo released the wireless Wavebird controller. These work great, and while they do run on AA batteries, let me tell ya, the battery life is incredible on these. Seriously, they last so long that a lot of gamers have trouble saying exactly how long. Personally, I haven't changed the batteries on mine for months. And yeah, they don't have a rumble functionality, but the trade-off is worth it in my opinion for the impressive battery life. Something you do need to pay attention to when buying a used Wavebird is to make sure it comes with the wireless receiver, because without it, the controller doesn't work. As a result, you'll often see the receiver by itself listed for higher prices than the actual controller by itself. So, best practice is to just buy them together. Oh, and of course, you'll want to make sure the controller itself is in good condition. These things are pretty sturdy in general, but the most common issue I've seen is that the grippy part of the analog stick can actually peel off, so make sure the analog stick is in good condition. You'll also want to make sure that the game discs you pick up are in good condition as well. GameCube discs are unique, coming in a smaller format when compared to regular discs, and with that comes a unique set of problems. For example, Console Collector told me that he's had problems with games that were resurfaced. Usually resurfacing discs is pretty reliable, but because of their smaller size, they don't really match up with most resurfacing machines very well. He's had a bunch of games that looked really nice out of a resurfacing machine, but then an hour into playing them, he got the dreaded error message. And believe me, getting that message really sucks. You'll also want to look out for disc rot, which can be checked for easily enough. All you gotta do is hold up the disc to the light and see if there's any tiny little holes that let light in. Also, because GameCube has smaller unique discs, it should come as no surprise that they came in unique cases as well. So you'll probably want these cases to keep everything looking uniform on your shelf. Luckily, it's very easy to make sure it's an official GameCube case, because in addition to the case having a shape that accommodates a smaller disc, it flat out says Nintendo GameCube indented into the inside of the case, as well as a convenient place to store a GameCube memory card if you want. As far as hardware goes, I should mention that it's a very common option for people to play GameCube games on the Wii. You'll just want to make sure your Wii has the controller and memory ports on the side, as that's the way to tell if it's a compatible model or not. The biggest benefit is that component cables are a lot easier to find than the GameCube ones, at least at the time of this video. That being said, there's an appeal to the original GameCube hardware, whether it's the look of its small form factor, the handle that lets you carry it around, or whatever the case may be. People still love to collect this console. Alright, before I wrap things up, I want to give a huge thank you to Console Collector. There's not many people who have a GameCube collection like this, and so it really is a privilege to get to see it. If you want to see more of his collection, then I would suggest checking out his channel. I'll leave a link below in the description, and you can also just search Console Collector on YouTube and it'll pop right up. He's got a lot more than just GameCube stuff too. By the way, with somebody who has every single GameCube game, you gotta ask him what his favorite game is, right? Well, I sure did, and I was delighted to hear that it's the same game I would choose, which is the original Pikmin. So if you're looking for a game recommendation, there you go. Also, for this week's question, I'd like to ask you all if you have any GameCube specific advice for collecting, and if not, then maybe just share a story about one of the best deals you ever got on something GameCube related. So leave those comments down below, and I will see ya in the next video.